Welcome to the Backyard Bourbon broadcast. This is episode 29. In this episode, Jeremy samples Old Grand-dad and also tells a story about his own granddad. This is episode 29 of the Backyard Bourbon broadcast. Okay, third time's a charm. Hey there, Backyardigans. It's Jeremy with the Backyard Bourbon broadcast. This is episode 29. We are reviewing Old Grand-dad today, and we're also doing a story about Granddad. So I've never had a bottled in bond bourbon before, so I've really been looking forward to this. This is the first time I've had Old Grand-dad, but to prep for this broadcast, I did sip it a little just to get my initial impressions, and sometimes your initial impressions change after your second time around with it. So this is my second time around with it, and this is the Old Grand-dad high rye mash bill bonded. Like I said, never had bottled in bond and 100 proof. So what is bottled in bond, you may ask, and why should I care? Well, back in the 1800s, some of the more unscrupulous distillers of the age would put just about anything in their whiskeys, anything that is, except actual good whiskey. Turpentine, iodine, tobacco, shoot, even gutter water was thrown in and sold to unsuspecting consumers. In some places, you were either brave or stupid or both to attempt a neat shot of whiskey. The Bottled in Bond Act was an attempt by the U.S. government to get things under control. No doubt a good many elected officials worried about the origins and contents of their distilled spirits, and in 1897 enacted the Bottled in Bond Act. Basically, as stated, whiskeys labeled as BiB, as it's known, had been made by an upright distiller in one season from one distillery in a barrel for at least 4 years and bottled at exactly 100 proof. The bottle also has to state where it was distilled and bottled. They also inserted provisions for removing or filtering any leftover charcoal bits and anything floating in the distillate. So basically, bottled in bond, or BiB, means you're getting a quality whiskey that won't kill you or make you go blind. So, yay. For Old Grand-dad 100 proof, this bottle is from Claremont, Kentucky. Okay, on the nose, it is to have vanilla and caramel. Yeah, I can smell the caramel. I'm still unaware. I'm such a rookie, but I'm not really clear what vanilla would smell like unless my wife would buy like a vanilla candle. Another thing I'm doing is I've got a glass of Old Grand-dad, and I've also got a glass of Wild Turkey 101. Kind of my this is bourbon. That is, Wild Turkey is that for me. Wild Turkey 101 is this is bourbon. So I'm gonna kind of compare them to each other. Who knows? At any rate, I'll be drinking good bourbon. That's the point. Okay. Just had the Old Grand-dad. Compare it neat with the Wild Turkey. See what I'm getting, like that grain corn taste, picking that up, and the oak, and there's a hint of caramel that I'm picking up. It's got a very strong whiskey flavor, strong grain finish. Okay, for the Wild Turkey is much more caramel, and there is a I would say it's actually a stronger corn finish on the Wild Turkey. On the nose, I can't tell either one apart. I could switch the glasses and not know the difference. But they're both bourbon, so they should smell alike, right? Okay. Marketing. Okay, here's the downside with Old Grand-dad. At first, the bottle looks, how to say this, cheap, maybe? But in researching the brand, I found out that the person called Old Grand-dad was actually Basil Hayden, which is one of my all-time favorite, these are too expensive for me, bourbons. So all of a sudden I'm intrigued, I'm attracted to this bourbon. It's disguising itself like a famous painting in a bad frame, right? Without a doubt. This bourbon could wrap itself in different marketing scheme and be sold easily for $40, $50 for $7.50. I appreciate a company putting out a good bourbon and just content with consumers brave enough to look past the labeling that may or may not appeal to them. I really love the strong finish on this bourbon. The company describes it as a vintage bourbon. I like that. I'm drinking a vintage bourbon. More trivia. According to the Beam Suntory website, during Prohibition, Old Grand-dad was produced by the American Medicinal Spirits Company and was one of the few distilled spirits permitted to be prescribed as medicine for medicinal use only. I think Four Roses was one as well. Well, here's to your health, Granddad. I've also tried it on the rocks, and every time you put a bourbon on ice, it mutes the aroma and the taste quite a bit. I don't know if I could tell the difference between Old Grand-dad and Knob Creek if they were both on ice. It's too muted, but it's exceptionally smooth, though, and definitely worth the price. I think this was $25 for the 750. Well, we're reviewing and sampling Old Grand-dad, and what better story to include than a story about my own granddad, Grandpa Floyd. He was a welder. He never drank, ironically. That I'm talking about him on a drinking show. Married my grandma Floyd. Floyd and Floyd. Who would have known, right? They had 3 kids, 7 grandkids, and untold numbers of great-grandkids. My grandparents were great, and this is a story about them. After I got my driver's license the summer before my junior year of high school, I began driving my parents' 1974 Oldsmobile Omega. In fact, it was the same car that brought me home from the hospital when I was born. My father had tried to sell it multiple times, but every time someone would drop by to take a look at it, for whatever reason, it wouldn't start. Either the battery would be dead, or the starter would freak out, who knows. But for over 10 years, it failed to start every single time. That is until I got it, and it never failed me once, honestly. But it also never failed to suck down gas at a rate of about 12 miles a gallon. Driving that car and paying for the gas it guzzled required that I get a job. During the summer, I worked construction with my dad, but once school started, I wound up with a job bagging groceries and chasing carts at the local grocery store called Toddy's. And let me tell you, there is no more miserable experience than working in a grocery store as a teenager. Actually, there's a lot more miserable experiences than that, but just play along. My grandparents had shopped at Toddy's for a long time, but once I started working there, my grandparents came in all the time. Imagine me, I'm 16, I'm skinny, I'm an idiot, a real live, dumb as a bag of hammers, 110-pound idiot. I couldn't use a calculator without somebody typing the numbers for me. And here I am trying to bag groceries. Forget it. I was lucky to stand on my own 2 feet without falling down. I'd been at Toddy's for about a week, and again, come my grandparents, and I bagged their groceries just about as bad as anyone could. I mean, I put eggs and bread on the bottom of a bag, and jelly and cantaloupe on top. It took me forever to understand how to properly bag a bag of groceries. I mean, people would buy flowers and a gallon of milk, that's all. And the checker would send it on down the counter, and boop! In go the flowers first, followed by the milk. So I put my grandparents' bags in their shopping cart and followed them toward the doors leading out of the store. Now, this is back when grocery stores, A, had people to bag their own groceries, and B, had no problem with cigarettes standing right out in the open. And I mean cartons of Marlboros and Camels, a display case 8 foot tall by 12 feet wide. It is really good that they've clamped down on that, because it was a hell of a temptation for a 16-year-old boy. Well, my manager is there watching things buy the dog food and cigarettes, and I'm paying more attention to my manager than I am to my grandpa, who's moving super slow in front of me. Right in front of my manager, I catch my grandpa's left heel with the shopping cart, hobbling him into the dog food. Someone impersonating Howard Cosell on the in-store intercom goes, "Down goes Grandpa! Down goes Grandpa! We gotta clean up and dog food," says a store-wide announcement. Oh, son, says my grandpa as he sprawled into the dog food like he got hit with a hand grenade. Oh God, I says to myself, trying to pick him up and keep him quiet so they don't can me. But at the same time, I'm thinking my manager's totally oblivious to the senior citizen massacre that's occurring right in front of her. At any rate, I got my grandparents to the car. I kept my job all in the same night. So, you win some, you lose some, right? Well, that'll about do it today for the Backyard Bourbon broadcast. We do hope you enjoyed today's show. A great big thank you goes out to the wonderful folks at Old Grand-dad wonderful bourbon you've got, and it's decently priced. Thank you for that. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Just search for Backyard Bourbon Broadcast. I put a lot of beautiful pictures up there that I take for each podcast, and I think you'll enjoy them. That's it. God bless. Make sure you enjoy your bourbon, but enjoy it responsibly. Also, get your pet spayed or neutered. Post no bills. All rights reserved. No shirt, no shoes, no service. The red zone is for loading and unloading passengers only. Do not pass go. Do not collect no $200. Materials may be copyrighted and are protected by worldwide copyright laws.